5 seconds to go.
Hello, this is Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Ralph Eisler.
And I'm Faithless Forrest, and we want you to know that if you don't believe in God, you're not alone. Right here in East Tennessee, you can find free-thinking atheists and agnostics. This is a show for them and for people committed to a life rooted in science and free of supernatural beliefs.
So on today's show, we're going to speak about vandals targeting atheist sign with George Gold of Butte County, California.
But first, we do want to tell you a little bit about the sponsors of our show.
The Atheist Society of Knoxville frequently has a fun meetup at a bar or eatery. Tonight's meetup is at Barley's in the Old City in Knoxville, starting around 5:30. Look for the silver-jacketed copy of The God Delusion standing upright on the table. And as Matt Dillahunty at Atheist Experience says, everyone's welcome to our happy hour for food, drink, and conversation. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee have several regular monthly meetings. The first and third Sunday mornings of the month are usually lectures with lively roundtable discussions. The second Sunday, we hold the Skeptics Book Club. On the fourth Sunday, we're mixing it up. Sometimes we have get-togethers we call a reflections meeting. It features a potluck lunch in someone's home. Sometimes we play board games or similar activities.
Okay, we have a special meeting coming up May 2nd, just about a month from now. And Dale McGowan, author of the book Atheism for Dummies. I hate to say that, but it's part of the series of books that people see on bookshelves and stores for dummies, etc.
I didn't know there was one for that. I've seen Religion for Dummies.
Yeah, well, I guess this is the counterpart. And Dale will be here. We'll be talking about this more in further shows. Just wanted to give everybody a heads up on it.
What was that date again?
It's May 2nd. That's Saturday.
That's a Saturday?
At 1 o'clock. It will be at Pellissippi State Community College.
All righty.
Okay, so later in the show, we'll give you our websites to visit for additional details, including times and locations.
All right, well, in the news, the Catholic, self-proclaimed Catholic warrior Susan Hemmerich, I think would be her name, gets off scot-free. The Tallahassee Democrat reports that criminal charges against Susan Hemmerich have been dropped.
Yeah, the Tallahassee newspaper reports that prosecutors dropped charges of criminal mischief Friday against a Tallahassee woman who was accused of damaging a holiday display of the Satanic Temple. Susan Hemmerich was arrested just before Christmas after she attempted to remove a display placed by a religious group in the rotunda of the Florida Capitol. The diorama depicted a biblical scene with an angel falling into a pit of fire, accompanied by the words, "Happy Holidays from the Satanic Temple."
All righty.
So prosecutors with the state attorney's office cited lack of evidence that the display was damaged and dropped the charges even after the jury had been selected.
I was kind of amazed by that since, I mean, she was attempting to carry it out a door and a policeman stopped her.
Yeah.
It wasn't merely damaging it, it was attempted theft.
Yeah, and of course, I have to admit, I think the Satanic Temple there put it there for a bit of irony or to get a little bit of view on the other side in any case. But nevertheless, she showed a lot of disrespect for doing that. The court said the defendant simply carried the display. No damages are apparent. It just was simply disassembled. So we don't have any prosecution there, and Ms. Hemmerich is off.
I guess if you're committing, crimes against the Satanic Temple, that's okay in Florida.
Well, there are a lot of things that seem to be okay in Florida, I guess. I don't know. But
all right. Well, I'll say newsflash for Susan. There is a book that makes assertion about this sort of behavior, and it quite simply says, "Thou shalt not steal." Perhaps you've heard of this book. All righty. Well, Elsewhere in the news, in Indiana.
Okay, yeah, the big news this week was that Mike Pence, the governor, after the legislature had passed a law exempting norms of civil behavior from prosecution, signed it very proudly. In Indiana, the religious population there celebrates their victory over both civil and civic behavior now. The Indiana Star reports that a debate over the Indiana bill modeled on the Federal Regulations Freedom and Restoration Act, the Reverend Bruce Borders, Republican of Jasonville, spoke about an anesthesiologist who didn't want to anesthetize a woman in preparation for an abortion.
I guess we're left to guess if the anesthesiologist thinks it's an act of love for a woman to have surgery without anesthesia. The Indiana Star also reports that Eric Miller of the Advance America, who said that Christian bakers, florists, and photographers should not be punished for refusing to participate in a homosexual marriage.
Yeah, but this has gotten a lot of pushback because people rightly point out that it allows religious groups to discriminate against any other groups that they don't like.
And they don't limit it to subject matter.
They don't limit it to subject matter. They can discriminate against homosexuals. They can discriminate against atheists, I suppose blacks. I'm just wondering how these Christian groups actually go about doing this, because if you walk into a store, how do they tell you? I don't know.
Well,
maybe wear arm patches. That sort of worked out in Nazi concentration camps.
You got to wonder if that's what they're going to say. Oh, well, you're going to have to label yourself.
You're going to have to label yourself so the Christians will know whom they can discriminate against.
Well, mass amnesia seems to have struck, as some of the good parts of the New Testament are apparently forgotten. I give you John 13, verse 34. A new commandment I give you, love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. Well, I won't hold my breath.
I won't either. Okay. Well, the BBC reports that 2 students at an Islamic seminary have reportedly been arrested after Freethought blogger Washikur Rahman was hacked to death, just a month after Ajit Roy was similarly attacked and killed in a machete attack.
According to the BBC report, the suspects told police they had targeted Mr. Rahman because of his anti-Islamic writings. The police official told the Associated News Press agency.
Yeah. Well, it might be a good time to remind viewers why we call this program Freethought Forum.
Well, it's because once upon a time here in America, you couldn't express ideas like we do on this show.
That's true.
There were laws against, what's called blasphemy. Blasphemy is, questioning the existence of a deity. And, once upon a time, that was prohibited by law. I'm sure there's books still on the laws, but they've fallen out of enforcement.
Yes, right.
Do you want to maybe help us with an Ingersoll quote, Ralph?
Well, yeah, I'll give you. Without free thought, men and women would be stuck with mistakes of the past. And here's a little quote from Robert Ingersoll. It says, "Give me the storm and tempest of thought and action rather than the dead calm of ignorance and faith. Banish me from Eden when you will, but first let me eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge." Boy, I wish I could speak like that.
Yeah, and I think he did it off the cuff, too.
Off the cuff.
All right. Well, on this week's show, we will be speaking with George Gold of the Butte County Coalition of Reason. George, are you with us?
I'm here. Good afternoon, Knoxville, Tennessee.
Well, great to have you, George.
So, George, we heard about you due to your Adopt a Highway signs. Can you tell viewers about why you were in the news?
I'll be happy to do that if we could digress for just a moment.
Sure.
I've just been wondering, as regards the Indiana situation, why nobody's talking about the 1964 Civil Rights Act. In 1964, the Congress passed and the President signed, and that was President Johnson after Kennedy was assassinated, passed the Civil Rights Act. What was the Civil Rights Act about? Well, in summary, it said that if you're black and you sit down at a restaurant, you can't say, I'm not serving you because you're black. So my question to Indiana is, if I walk into a restaurant and I'm wearing a T-shirt that says, hi, I'm your friendly neighborhood atheist, does that mean because you're a Christian, you get to deny me service?
So far as...
So I don't know about everybody else, but I'm very concerned about that. I know the emphasis has been on sexual discrimination, but we're here talking about atheists.
Right.
And the First Amendment says that we have the right to free expression, and the Civil Rights Act says I should be able to eat wherever I want to eat, regardless of whether I'm wearing a T-shirt that happens to say something that may not agree with the owner of the restaurant.
That's absolutely
So having
right.
said that, let me tell you a little bit about our Adopt a Highway project. Here in California, and I'm a motorcycle rider. I've ridden all over the United States, so these projects are running in many states. So just like many community organizations, a couple of years ago, I got together with some friends and I said, hey, why don't we start an Adopt a Highway project? We can do two things at once. We can clean up our highways, which is needed because of all the budget cuts, and there's not enough highway workers to do the work for us. So we contribute to our community. And then guess what? Because we're good citizens, we get to have a couple signs up that says Atheists of Butte County, indicating that this section, this 2-mile section of highway, is maintained by the Atheists of Butte County. So we did that, and we started in 2012. And this is our third year, I think, and the requirements from the State of California Department of Transportation is that you have to go out there at least 12 times a year, so that's about once a month, and clean up the highway. So that's what we do. Our next one is coming up on Sunday.
All righty.
Wow.
How long is your stretch of highway?
It's 2 miles, so it's 2 miles on one side of the highway and 2 miles on the other side of the highway.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee also has an Adopt a Highway section, and I think it's probably a similar length.
Yes, it's 2 miles also. And we are only committed to cleaning up twice a year, though.
We've been trying to do it quarterly.
Have we?
Yeah. It's really hard to get volunteers out in the heat of summer here. We get a stretch in the, June, July, August, September where it feels downright dangerous being out there for the heat.
Yeah. So.
Well, sometimes it's very hot out here as well, but we commit to 12 times a year. Last year we did 14. The year before that we did 13, and so we're getting started on this year. This is our third time out, and it's March, almost April, so we try to do at least once a month. We were rained out, a couple of weeks ago, but we'll be out there Sunday. The weather looks good, and we always have a good time. It's a gorgeous stretch of highway, and I would encourage everyone to get out there and help maintain our lovely highways.
Yeah, but you've had some vandalism done to your signs, correct?
We have. The signs have been vandalized about 4 times in total over the last couple of years. And that begets another question. There are some in the secular community that say this is not vandalism, this is a hate crime. For example, if these signs said something like, Christian Outreach Project or something like that, and those signs were vandalized, there are many in the secular community that say that would be a hate crime and the police would investigate. And to be candid, I've been swayed in both directions. I have reported the signs being vandalized to the California Highway Patrol, and they're the ones that say, look, this is vandalism. We don't really have the budget to do that. Go and talk to Caltrans. If you talk to Caltrans and say, hey, I want to report this, what do they say? They say, hey, you have to go talk to the Highway Patrol.
Yeah.
So we're getting this administrative, circular logic where you don't really get anywhere. The last time the signs were vandalized a couple months ago, I did report it to the Highway Patrol, and we did get a police report. but they claim the most they can do is put it on the daily log for the patrol officers, and they just try to keep an eye on the section of highway where the signs are.
Uh-huh.
It seems to me, in my humble opinion, that the vandalization is by the same person, whoever he or she or they may be, because the first time it was done was in 2013, and they took the time underneath our signs to paint the post of the sign white, which it's not, it's just bare wood. And then they stuck a pray sign underneath, and they didn't really just stick it on there, I should say. They used 4 screws to put it into the wood. And that was in, when was that? That was in May of 2013. And if you look at the most recent one, was the first time I actually wrote on the sign itself, and that was just a couple of months ago. It was January 13th of 2015. And they wrote, pray for, and then they put arrows right under atheists of Butte County. So this is obviously a person or persons who seem to pray a lot, and they want someone to pray for us. And I've always liked the sign that's out in the secular community that says, you pray for me and I'll think for you. So that's our philosophy.
All right. Well,
we are not disheartened by our signs being vandalized. We get more publicity, and people become more aware of our presence whenever this happens.
Yeah. Now, were we talking about the adopt the highway signs here? You also have billboard signs.
Right. In December of 2012, the Butte County Coalition of Reason was actually launched with the help of our national chapter, which is the United Coalition of Reason. And we deployed 13 billboards throughout the county that said, don't believe in God, join the club. And of those 13 signs, one of them was vandalized, where they scratched out and removed the paper that said don't, and it says, so they changed the meaning of the sign, so it says believe in God, join the club, and then it said Butte County, and removed part of our web address. The good thing about that I have to tell you is that before the signs were vandalized, our launching of the Butte County Coalition of Reason was a front-page story in our largest local newspaper here, so that was very encouraging. And then when the sign was vandalized, then we became the lead story in all of the television, local television stations here in Butte County. Now, I know throughout the country that the United Coalition of Reason has deployed a variety of these signs. Believe in God, you're not alone. There's about 3 or 4 variations. And there have been varying responses in terms of whether they're vandalized or not.
Do you get that?
I can tell you that when ours was vandalized, we just got double the publicity and double the support. And I have to say, one of the most gratifying things about our billboard signs when they were deployed was just walking down the street, eating an ice cream in downtown Chico, and passing people on the sidewalk, and what were they talking about? They were talking about our billboards. It was absolutely fantastic.
Great.
And the other thing I'll mention is the one billboard that was vandalized, the sign company was also offended by the vandalization. They redid the billboard, which was a huge billboard, for free within 7 days.
Oh, God.
And that was fantastic. And after that, none of the billboards were touched.
And have you gotten a lot of feedback from people, not hostile feedback, but encouraging feedback to join your groups?
The launch and the deployment of the billboards really was a launch for us. I didn't really keep track of how many new members we got. We have our presence both on Facebook and Meetup. And, of course, we have monthly meetings of Chico Skeptics and the Atheists of Butte County. And it's now now 2015, people still come up to me and come to our meetings and say, I first learned about your groups through the Billboard program.
Oh, that's
so
great.
It's been a fantastic boon and a great publicity tool for us to become more well-known throughout the county, to be more accepted throughout the county. It's been wonderful.
Well, George, I must admit, at times my head has been spinning, and even my own notes, I haven't been clear. I see I've used occasionally a three-letter acronym, CFI, which is Center for Inquiry, but actually it's COR, which is help us with that. What is that, and help the viewers?
COR stands for Coalition of Reason.
And
the Coalition of Reason are the local chapters of the United Coalition of Reason. So throughout the country, there are dozens and dozens, I think it's 174, something like that, of local Coalition of Reasons, and the local groups decide what to name them. Ours is called Butte County Coalition of Reason.
So what groups compose your Butte County Coalition?
Right. So one of the requirements for forming your own chapter of Coalition of Reason is you have to have 3 community groups participate. So in our county, we have the Atheists of Butte County, we have Chico Skeptics, the Secular Student Alliance, which is the California State University Chico chapter of their national organization, and we have a group called Saved by Reason, which is going to be working with the prison system here in California. We also have another group called Chico Fans, which is Chico freethinkers, agnostics, non-believers, and skeptics.
Okay.
All right. So, I'm familiar with the Secular Student Alliance. I know that here at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, there is a chapter, and we've occasionally had some of their members even on our show to interview them. The UT Knoxville chapter, a college chapter. There are high school chapters as well, and in fact there is one in, I guess it's Lenore City,
Lenore
Tennessee.
City, yeah.
I think it's Lenore City hosts the only high school chapter in Tennessee. Is your Secular Student Alliance, it's associated with the university, right?
It's directly associated with California State University, Chico. We also have a 2-year college here in Butte County called Butte College. And at some of our meetings, we have many professors and students from both of the colleges that come and attend and participate. And some of our longtime members are professors at both of the institutions. So that's always stimulating, and as I'm sure you know, some of the professors who are really accustomed to speaking in front of audience make for great speakers and are very entertaining. So that's always a lot of fun and a great stimulus to our secular environment and the groups here in Chico, California.
Yes, we're pretty fortunate in having the University of Tennessee right here too, and we have Sunday morning meetings 2 Sundays a month, and we frequently get speakers from there that are quite good. We don't have as many actually belonging to the group as I would like, but we are able to tap into that source, and it's a pretty good source.
I was going to say, what is the typical activity of the Secular Student Alliance? RET, we kind of specialize in being a replacement for the Sunday morning church activity. We do a Sunday morning activity. Does the Secular Student Alliance, get together and have pizza nights, or do they do student debates? What are their activities?
The Secular Student Alliance here in Chico do participate in campus events. So if there is some sort of event where people are tabling and having information available to the students, they usually participate in that. So for recruitment times, for example, the fraternities are pretty popular here in Chico. And when there are fraternity recruitment days, then the Secular Student Alliance will have their own recruiting table and information table. and any other campus-wide events that are designated for information or for fun. During concerts, there's usually a contingent of students who are members of the Secular Student Alliance, and they make sure that they have flyers and information available for the students.
All right. Well, as you were describing campus events, I remember reading, I don't remember at what university, well, I think it's several, that there was a fundraiser, I think it was to fight leukemia, but they referred to it as Hug an Atheist. I think it was a fall event. Any idea, did they participate in the Hug an Atheist event?
There are two events that interest me personally. One is called Ask an Atheist Day, which is coming up on April 16th. And then there's also a national Hug an Atheist Day. To be candid, we have not yet been able to organize a Hug an Atheist Day. I think this is both an international event as well as local events. But it's something that we're working on and we've been talking about. Always welcome suggestions. I think it's a fun idea and something fun to do. One of my personal charges has been to make sure that when I speak publicly, even when I give the invocation at our Chico City Council, is to have a sense of humor. I think one of the things that's missing in the secular and atheist movement here in the United States is that not enough fun. We got to have fun, and people think that atheists are dour and dry and sit in a corner and complain. So that's why I like the Sunday Assembly, because the two comedians who started it, I mean, they're just a lot of fun. And so I always try to have some fun, and Hug an Atheist is what people don't expect, and you can have fun and meet new people at the same time.
Yeah, I've been with a group of Christian people. One of the things at the end of the discussion, we asked them, well, what surprised them most about the atheists who had come to talk to them? And they said, well, we thought atheists were just sort of very unhappy old people, that were always pretty grouchy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
that's what we want to change.
Right.
Of the other member organizations, could you maybe summarize what's characteristic about them? There's I guess it's the Butte County Coalition of, that's the umbrella group.
Yeah, that's the umbrella group.
So there's the Atheists of Butte County. Did I get that right?
Right. Yeah, I'm the president of the Atheists of Butte County, and so we want to see a world where public places, public education, public policies are not being shaped by what religionists think and what their God commands. So we don't want to sit by and wait for them to tell us what we're supposed to think. So we come together to be active citizens in conversations about how we live our lives, both public and private. And we're an advocacy group, so strongly believing in separation of church and state, and that's why over a period of 2 years I petitioned the city council and the mayor that as a result of Greece versus Galloway decision that we wanted to be included in the rotation of delivering invocations to the city council, which they have every meeting before the city council meeting begins. Now, I would just want to say that personally, I would rather not see any invocations. I don't think they're necessary. And for example, our Butte County Board of Supervisors, before the meeting starts, has a moment of silence. It's been that way for several years. And I think that makes a lot of sense. If people like to meditate, they can meditate. And guess what? If they want to pray, let them pray. But do it quietly and do it to yourself, because I'm not interested.
Sure.
But after Greece versus Galloway, certainly we are law-abiding citizens. And if the Supreme Court says, hey, you can have invocations, but you can't exclude anyone, so I changed my tactics, and after about 2 years, the City Council finally agreed. We did have support from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. They had sent 2 strongly worded letters to the mayor about our request, And on January 6th, I gave the first ever secular invocation at the Chico City Council. It was pretty exciting.
Great, great. And,
well, we got a photograph of you standing there, George, at the city council meeting. Maybe you could, can you remember the words to that, or do you have them written down somewhere?
I have them in front of me. It just takes about 2 minutes. I'd be happy to repeat my presentation. Shall I do that?
Yeah, that'd be great, because I think there are a lot of people out in the world there who scratch their heads and say, well, how can a secularist give an invocation? And so why don't you go ahead and do that?
Okay. All right. Well, here we go. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm George Gold, coordinator of the Butte County Coalition of Reason, and I'm president of the Atheists of Butte County. Rather than bowing our heads and closing our eyes in deference, we want to encourage you to open your eyes wide to face the reality that confronts us. We should do so without losing sight of our ideals and what we might achieve. When this body comes together to govern, you do so with the consent of the citizens of Chico. Chico is a diverse community with many different views and opinions. This eclectic community, according to the Pew Research Center study, includes 20% of our population living secular lives. In the city of Chico, that means for the first time ever, I'm here representing over 17,000 secular Chico citizens with this invocation. Humanists, non-believers, agnostics, and atheists, by their very nature, believe that we have the power to solve all problems within ourselves, amongst ourselves, through science and reason, and that by applying the science and reason with the strength found in sympathy and compassion, we can overcome any hurdle we encounter. It is incumbent upon this council to make the best decisions for the entire community. In this regard, I ask that you use wisdom, common sense, and empathy in your deliberations. In your work here, take into account the implications your decisions will have now and in the future. Be reminded of the joyous laughter of children playing in the comfort of the shade of our trees. You are planting seeds for the benefit of future generations. When there are problems, when there is debate, let us be accountable for our own actions. Let's not point to the shortcomings of others. Let us behave morally and judiciously. Let's treat each other with respect. When we need to find wisdom, let's look to the documents of government, the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, and yes, the First Amendment, which in one sentence provides for the separation between church and state. And we might even consult our city charter for direction. Let us open our hearts to the inherent dignity and worth of each person in our community. I hope we can appreciate and realize our differences of race and religion and/or lack of religion. In the end, we are all human beings. When we bleed one of 4 basic blood groups, regardless of race, regardless of where we live, regardless of our political affiliations, whether we are rich or poor, and yes, whether we are religious or decidedly not religious. For in every single one of us, the color of our blood is the same. In the face of adversity, we need not look above for answers, but instead we should recognize the proven potential within ourselves and in each other to overcome the many challenges that we will face in this coming year. Our communities unite us, and I hope we and you can recognize our humanity as we get ready for the challenges of this new year. We, the secular community, want to participate in our communities with a life full of inspiration, imagination, and beauty. Each of us wants to live an honorable and ethical life. We hope each of you feels the same. Some people say I'm just a child of the 60s. For silver and long black hair, and I lift up my hat. Oh, God. My big black beard. Oh, God. But I suppose that it might be true. Nevertheless, my mantra has always been, make love, not war. Today, I guess, if nothing else, I still believe in that. Thank you, and Happy New Year.
Oh, excellent.
That was very nice.
Very
nice.
Very insightful, and I think gives something people more to think about than they get from most prayers, that's for sure.
So, I guess we've reached the point in our program where we need to take a mid-program break. Maybe when we get back from the break, we'll ask you about the public's reaction to your invocation. Would that work for you, George?
Sounds great.
All right. Well.
Okay. In case you're just tuning in, this is Freethought Forum, programmed by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. Freethought Forum is funded jointly by them and by individual contributions. Shows are live most every Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Knoxville Community Access Television, Channel 12 or Channel 194, depending upon your local cable network. Tell your out-of-town friends to see us streaming online at ctvknox.org.
This is a call-in show, and we are live today, March 31st, 2015. And viewers can call in now to the number on the screen with a short comment or question. Call in now while we go to an informative break and watch this video.
If you live in or around the Knoxville area and are questioning your religious beliefs or simply believe in one less God
we have
than
about
everyone else,
23 minutes.
well, you're not alone. The Atheist Society of Knoxville is a fun and friendly group of people just like you that meets twice a week at a bar or restaurant. We meet every Tuesday night following the show at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria for happy hour. You'll find our group either inside or on the patio. Look for Richard Dawkins' silver-jacketed book, The God Delusion, standing upright on the table. On Fridays, we meet at Agave Azul or the Beard and Beer Market. But if you plan to preach, proselytize, provoke, or punch, please don't. We all question what we believe at one point in our lives. If this is the time for you, come join us for food, drink, conversation, and fun. Do you find stories of talking snakes laughable? Do you prefer the scientific method over supernatural beliefs? Are you concerned about religious leaders and organizations imposing their values and rules on your body, your family, and the rest of our society? Well, take comfort in the fact that you're not alone. The Rationalists of East Tennessee meets weekly for fellowship and provides a forum for people who support skeptical thinking and rational discussion of these and other issues. To find out more information or to find out about our next meeting, visit us on the web at www.rationalist.org.
Whenever he speaks, it's breaking up. I have a lot of trouble hearing him, but your voice is clear.
Okay.
We're back.
We're back. And the Atheist Society of Knoxville, or ASK, meets 2 times a week. We have evening meetups for fun, food, drink, conversation. ASK's purpose is to supply a venue for community, camaraderie, and outreach to atheists, agnostics, freethinkers, and other like-minded persons in the East Tennessee area. Our Tuesday meeting is going on now at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria in Knoxville in the Old City.
The Rationalists of East Tennessee has Sunday activities involving lively presentations and discussions on subjects topical and timeless. Once a month we get together for the Skeptics Book Club. The title of the April book is A Troublesome Inheritance, Genes, Race, and Human History by Nicholas Wade. This is Sunday, April 12th at 2 p.m. The public is invited to participate. You need not have read the book to attend, but of course, it helps. Visit rationalists.org to find the rest of the calendar of books and join us at the new location, Books A Million, 8513 Kingston Pike, Knoxville. Once again, that's every second Sunday of the month at 2 p.m.
Okay, well, both the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee help provide a social outlet where you'll find that if you don't believe in Zeus or follow Zoroaster or say Yuck to Yahweh,
you
are not alone.
All right.
Well, do we have a caller?
Well, we've just received note that we've got a caller here, George. So we're going to push the button. We'll greet the caller and see what the caller has to say.
Hello, caller. You're on Freethought Forum. Can you give us a name or a nickname?
It's Charles from Central Illinois.
Hey, Charles from Central Illinois.
Hello, Charles. Thank you for calling. Do you have a question or comment, especially for our guest, George Gold?
Yes. about this Christian privilege business, especially like in Indiana and so forth. How are all the different competing groups of different Christian denominations are going to figure out who gets top dog in the pack? Because a lot of the Southern Baptists don't like other groups, and a lot of the Seven Mountain Dominions don't like a lot of other people, and so yet they all claim to be the privileged group.
So, Charles, are you saying that perhaps we're even going to see little signs saying Catholics need not apply?
Yeah, when they start doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that's why I suggested earlier that maybe we all have to wear arm patches so we know who to discriminate against.
Which tribe do we belong to so that we know who to hate?
Yeah.
George, do you have a comment for us?
Well, I think it points up to just what you just said, which tribe do we hate this week? I mean, these issues are not uniting America, they're dividing America. And I'm not sure when it changed, when it turned. But like I said in my invocation, I guess I am a child of the 60s, and we were into peace and love, everybody and everything. And it's certainly turned now, and I think it's politics, to try and divide us so that others can conquer, meaning politically during elections and so on. And I think that people, whether they're religious or not, should reject this kind of philosophy. They should reject this divisiveness that goes on. I have to tell you, I can tell you a brief story that happened to me yesterday. I work out every day, and I was at the gym, and I took a swim. I used to be on the swim team in high school. And I was sitting there in the sun, and this fellow who I recognized, we started chatting. And I would estimate he's at least 70, maybe he's a little bit more. Big, tall guy, got a big gray beard. If you saw him, you'd say, wow, look at that hippie. But he certainly was not. We're chatting about this, that, and the other. All of a sudden, he literally starts screaming how he couldn't stand Obama and how Obama is ruining our country because of the Affordable Care Act. And I waited till he was done, and I said, so, excuse me, are you getting Social Security? Well, yes, I am. I paid into it. I said, well, that's good, but you are aware it's a medical program run by the government for you. Well, yes, I guess so. And so people have these passions, and so I said, why is it that you hate Obama? Well, this going from being a slave to being president is just too much. I said, what?
Oh.
I mean, this is 2015,
Jeez.
And in the next sentence, when he saw my face, the next sentence he looked at me and says, well, I'm a racist. And I said, well, have you thought about changing that perspective? And so what's happening is that all over the country, I mean, people are being divided, and I can't tell you, even in this community here, where you think Northern California, most people think, oh, San Francisco. I happen to live in a blue state, but it's a red county. And this gentleman is not alone. And so it's whether it's Northern California or Indiana, people are just getting their basest and lowest level of education and awareness validated by people like Ted Cruz and others who want to divide the country only for one reason, to try and win an election. And it's a base and not the best foot forward for America, in my opinion.
Yeah. Charles, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, it seems as though a lot of it started with, do you remember when, you know the song Hell is for Children by Pat Benatar?
I don't know it.
I know it.
Don't know that particular one. Are you going to sing it for us?
I'm a child of the 70s. I know it.
Well, so am I. It goes, they climb the dark so you can't see their tears. They hide in the light so you can't see their fears. And, let's see. forgive and forget, all the while love and pain becomes one in the eyes of a wounded child. She wrote the song after reading an article about child abuse in a newspaper. And the very first paragraph apparently is what she took the starting lyrics from, and the title of the article is the title of the song. And apparently that was a large outbreak of the fundamentalists protesting that song for some reason.
Yeah, well,
now this is also about the same time they started cracking down on universities and so forth, and the beginnings of the end of the the end of the Jim Crow eras in a lot of areas, because they started really cracking down. And I think that's when it actually started. Fundamentalists were losing their power and their authority over their congregations, and they didn't like that.
Yeah.
I think, Charles, you've hit on an important little point, and that is that things like the Religious Freedom Act and there are other kinds of bills that give special exemptions to laws that we think really represent basic decent behavior, give special exemption to people for religious reasons. And in particular, there are children that die every year because parents refuse to give their children or provide access to modern medicine. And unlike prayer, modern medicine works.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Charles. So
we should clear the line, Charles, and hope we can get another call.
One more point.
Okay.
I wonder if everybody knows.
Thank you, Charles.
What the fastest growing group in our society in America, actually around the world, but let's stick with America, is today. And it's the growing secular population. Certainly in demographics, we always look at millennials. But the fastest growing religious segment of our society is the secular growth. It's approximately 20%. In California, it's 37% of the population.
Yeah.
And so I think what's happening is in the religious community, they're just afraid that they're losing out, that they're losing their populations. And guess what? They're absolutely right. Church attendance, weekly church attendance is down more in the last decade than it was in the past 30 years. And so there's a fear factor running through all of this, all of these types of legislation. And they're ridiculous. They make no sense in American society. They're counterintuitive to what our Constitution and the Bill of Rights says. It's a sad comment.
Yeah, I see a real conflict here, that we have these reports of the group of the nuns growing, particularly the 18 to 34 age group, say, not attending church, not being particularly religious. At the same time, though, we find more and more of the state houses in particular are being taken over by hard religious rightists. And they're the ones that are setting the laws, like this law in Indiana. And so these two counter streams are moving through American life, and I'm not sure how this is going to be resolved.
Right. Well, one of the things that's happened in conjunction with that is people like the Koch brothers, who have billions of dollars to spend and are spending them in ways that reflect what will become a minority opinion for the religious right. And the counter to that is that there are a growing number of secular organizations that are working together to counteract that. For example, I'm participating in a conference call on Thursday, which is the Secular Coalition of America, and that's a conference call that is for a variety and a large number of secular organizations throughout the country, so that we can work together and so that we can track each other's progress and participate in each other's projects.
Yeah.
Well, George, you're involved in a lot of things, but it occurs to me that there's a few there's organizations in your coalition of reason that we haven't heard about. One in particular, you mentioned Saved by Reason. We have about 9 minutes left, and I sure would like you to tell viewers a little bit about that.
I can. I will say that it's a new organization. It is being formed by a man who is an ex-Nazi, who is an ex-skinhead, who's an ex-drug user, and an ex-con. And he was greatly moved by Peter Boghossian's book on how to become an atheist. What is it? A manual for an atheist?
Yes.
And he's actually on his board of directors.
Oh.
And it's going to do what they can to intervene in the prison system, which actually has less than 1% of atheists in the California prison system. So remember, we make up between 10 and 22% of the population, and yet we make up less than 1% of prisoners. But as you may know, being saved by Jesus is one of the requirements of the parole authority here in California, and I think
didn't
in
know
many
that.
states throughout the country. And Saved by Reason will be working to try and change that, and mostly to address the historical recidivist rate throughout the prison system, which is very, very high.
George, in high school, I was fortunate enough to have a class called criminology, and so I know what that word means, but I've discovered in life a lot of people don't know what recidivist or recidivism is. Help the viewers with that word, please.
Sure. Recidivism is a term of art that is used to describe the process where someone is arrested, goes to trial, found guilty, goes to prison, gets out in 2 or 3 years, and usually within 90 days they're arrested and they're back in jail, either for parole violation or for new crimes. Mm-hmm. And one of the challenges of any prison system should be to remove that rate, or certainly to lower the rate of recidivism, because the same people are circulating into our society and spending most of their life out of our society and in prison. So that's exactly what Saved by Reason wants to address, is the recidivism rate. And they want to help inmates reintegrate into society so they can be productive.
So you're saying this is new. I assume there haven't been many inmates that have made parole and for which there are any statistics yet available?
There are none available yet. As I say, this has started literally at the beginning of this year, and they're just getting off the ground. They are going to be forming their own nonprofit corporation status, be a 501c3, and we look forward to them participating in the Coalition of Reason, as well as having some success in California prisons.
Oh, that's great. Wish them all the success in the world for doing that.
Now, there was another group you mentioned, which was the Chico Skeptics. What are their typical activities, or maybe I should ask, what are the demographics? I really would be interesting to know the demographics of all these groups.
Yeah. Chico Skeptics is really part of that tradition of skeptics in the pub, which I believe many years ago started in Scotland. People who were skeptical about everything in life and also like to drink beer a lot. So the Chico Skeptics try to follow that tradition. When they get together, there's usually a fair amount of imbibing and good fun and laughter. I would say Chico Skeptics are more focused on the scientific method and using science as a method of investigation about everything in our lives here on Earth. So we find many more philosophy students, biology students, and professors of both those disciplines speaking to the groups about a variety of unusual things that we should be skeptical about, whether it's astronomy or charlatans, people who claim to be psychics. They like to debunk those things. And over the years, that's what Chico Skeptics has done.
Well,
and it's also always great fun and educational at the same time.
Well, George, you said you mentioned in that list astronomy. I bet you really meant astrology, didn't you?
Well, they spend a great deal of time debunking astrology.
Yeah.
So I think I and other Chico Skeptics are very clear on the difference between astronomy and astrology, I assure you.
All righty. So, as you described it, I couldn't help but think there's another phrase that I would encourage viewers to learn about, and that is Socrates Cafe. That is kind of a social activity often done in a bar or eatery where you discuss things like what is the nature of piety and so on. Well, George, there's just about 2 minutes left. I think you may have said you have a final invocation. That's upcoming?
Well, with your indulgence, as I said, by pure coincidence, my second invocation is coming up on April 7th at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time.
We need you to do it promptly.
Tell me what you think. It's a little bit shorter.
You're going to need to do it promptly if it's to happen at all, and we may not even finish out. You may finish out the program for us. Let's do it.
Okay. It's much shorter. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, when I was a teenager and I would have friends over for dinner, there would invariably be some sort of, shall we say, a spirited discussion at the dinner table. Whether it was movies, sports, or politics, it was often a wild ride. Therein lies the rub. My mother used to say, you want to have a successful dinner? Don't talk about politics, sex, or religion. Our retort to my mother was, well, what else is there to talk about? As some of you know, in February of 2015 in Bangladesh, Mr. Avajit Roy, an American citizen and atheist, a writer and author, was stabbed to death because of his writings and ideas. And in the same month in North Carolina, 3 Muslim Americans were shot to death by someone who claimed to be an atheist. These 2 murderous events are appalling, and they demonstrate how important it is for each of us as human beings. At the very least, we must respect each other. We must, at the very least, not kill each other. We must see each other as human beings that have a right to exist on this planet. We must not demonize each other. We must learn to live in peace. Isn't that what civilized societies do? My daddy always told me, you don't get respect if you don't give it. Let's tackle our problems using the most successful methods ever devised: science, reason, logic, and the free inquiry for information. Let's use these tools to improve our lives and enhance the well-being of everyone. I hope today your deliberations and discussions are filled with respect, good humor, and love.
Oh, great. Another winner.
All right. Very good. Very good. Well, we've got a little over a minute and a half here. George, we want to thank you for being willing to call in and tell you about what Freethought is like over there on the other side of our continent. Sometimes here we feel like we're a little bit alone, a little bit of island in a sea of superstition.
Okay.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for inviting me, and I wish you all good fortune, and don't give up.
Okay. Thank you very much, George. Well, it's time to start wrapping things up. Get out your pen and paper. This has been Freethought Forum, a program by the Atheist Society of Knoxville and the Rationalists of East Tennessee. I'm Ralph Eisler.
And I'm Faithless Forrest. Please send us feedback. Leave voicemail at 865-272-9060 or email us at freethoughtforum@yahoo.com.
You can see this show Tuesdays from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on this Knoxville station at 2100 Greenwich Mean Time at ctvknox.org.
We'd like to thank our viewers, our callers, Sam and Jonas for technical support, and the staff at CTV Knox and George.